Alright guys, I say I myself, well, been called a geriatric millennial. And it tickles me to death that I finally have a generation that I belong to. Whereas I myself have been calling myself a Generation Xer, but I'm too young to be Generation X. And I've always considered myself too old to be a millennial, even though if you run the years of generations, I am a millennial. Yes, I am. So now that I am a geriatric millennial, this is awesome. Finally got me a place to belong. Yes, this one's mine. I belong in geriatric millennial territory. I am for this. A lot of people are like, "Oh, it's geriatrics. Geriatrics are old people. I'm not an old person. Old people. I'm not with a cane and a walker and these things and this and that and the other." I support this. I even support the name geriatric millennial. It just means old millennial. Definitely for this, and even for the name. Why am I for this? So, at 18 years old, when I myself was 18 years old, the oldest human being in the world to me was 39. My mother. She, if was 39 today and I was 18 today, would be a geriatric millennial. She'd been around since the creation of myself. She was literally there when I was created, and therefore is the oldest known human being to me and is 39 years old. So she is wicked old when I'm 18 years old. And so as 18-year-olds now, and I didn't know the term geriatric at 18, but these kids are smarter and can Google things. They'd probably Googled what does old mean, or something like that, and it came up geriatric. Yeah, I could definitely see, calling somebody a geriatric millennial, and I am for it. I am a geriatric millennial, and I will introduce myself as so. Probably, if a conversation ever comes up, "Oh, what generation are you?" Geriatric millennial. That's right, brother. So what does this mean exactly? So the geriatric millennials are the older millennials who remember things that a lot of people don't necessarily remember today other than the older people. And a lot of younger people used to call us boomers, but there's an entire generation between us and the boomers called Generation X that no one really thinks about, which is actually the smallest generation, probably why people don't think about it. But anyways, the geriatric millennials and the Generation X are not very far different from each other. I've heard it called the Oregon Trail generation, the geriatric millennials. For those of you who don't know, Oregon Trail was a game that you played on your Macintosh, or was it IBM back then? Might have just been IBM. I think they were only two. I don't know. I could be wrong. On a floppy disk, a disk that literally floppied. It was like that big. It was like 4 inches by 4 inches. It was a huge disk. You typed in your number, Chris, or your name, your number. Typed in your name, and all of a sudden you went through the Oregon Trail on this little floppy disk game. And it was very simple, and everyone played it for hours on end. I only got the chance to play it at school because we didn't have a computer at home, and that's what happened. We played the Oregon Trail, so we're the Oregon Trail generation, but I like geriatric millennial better. Some things that, geriatric millennials can do that other millennials cannot do is we can talk on the phone. We know how. We know how to literally call somebody, "Hello," rather than texting someone. I've called plenty of people today while I was at work, and it was very comfortable to me. It was not very hard at all for me to do. Something that I am accustomed to simply because texting did not exist. For the most part, cell phones, they did exist, but cell phones were not available to me. There were these huge flip phones back in the day. Some of them were even in bags, believe it or not. But they did not exist. They didn't even exist, to my parents. They couldn't have afforded one. I didn't see a cell phone. I didn't actually have one until I think my senior year of high school, when I could afford one myself. I don't even remember what the bill cost back then, but texting was not available on that thing. It was literally like a phone, no camera, nothing. So I very distinctly remember calling people on the phone, being able to talk to someone on the phone, have a conversation. pick up on social cues like, oh, this person's getting upset over the phone, things like that. And excuse me, it was a lot easier, in my opinion. I still prefer to talk on the phone rather than text, but a lot of people text now. But, I can do things like that, and there's no anxiety in it. I even still have a landline here at the house, which is easier for me to make phone calls on than the cell phone. But, we do things like this. We remember dial-up and waiting on the be-doo-dee, the little sound it used to make, and fax machines and things like this before there was email and dial-up, or just not dial-up, Wi-Fi and things like that. And so these are things that the newer millennials, I don't even know what their name is, the newer millennials, they probably don't know about. They don't remember. They don't, they've never seen before. But the geriatric millennials, we do remember, and we can pick up on social cues and talking on the phone and verbal language and things like this. And I am definitely for this. I'm definitely for the distinction between the two groups. I don't really think that X, which is the smallest generation, I don't really think they necessarily need a split, because they were, 65 to 80 or something like that. So from 65 to 80, the technology really didn't improve as drastic as it did in the millennial generation. Another thing that us millennials, us geriatric millennials went through was most of us were in the workforce during the recession. Many people have heard about it, especially the younger people. They probably heard about it, but it may not have affected people back then. I lost my job, and so a lot of people did lose jobs, or know of people who lost jobs, or had other hardships of trying to make do. And we remember this. Like, I don't want to say younger people didn't live through it, which they did, but it definitely affected their parents more so. And this is something that the geriatric millennials and Generation X and baby boomers, that we all had to go through as working adults, as bill-paying adults. We had to go through this, and some of us lost things, cars, houses, things like that. Thankfully, I did not lose anything, but I didn't have anything to lose to begin with. But we went through the recession, and now we're going through the pandemic now, and it's not really the same, but very similar, and we're still working at it, as we've already kind of done this before, us and X and the boomers before us. And so, yes, I definitely support this term, even the term geriatric millennial. Yeah, call me a geriatric millennial. I'm okay with it. I support this. And I'm so glad that there is a split, because it always felt like there was a split between the generations to begin with. I never thought that, you can't say someone from 93 is the same as someone from 80. You just can't, you can't say that. It's not the same. They're in two complete different generations, because at 20 years old, person from 80 was in the year 2000. At 20 years old, the person from 93 was in 2013. I mean, you can't, they did not go through the same things at all. So I support this. If you like this video, check this one out over here. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe over there. Let me know, do you support geriatric millennials or not? Does it offend you? Does not offend me. Hope it helps. Thank you much.